Hello, Miguel here, and I'm going to compare my horrendous serve with Djokovic. And basically, I've started to taking tennis seriously over the last 4 months. And just for context, I'm 45 years old, so a little bit late to start playing tennis. But I love it. I always loved it. Loved it. Okay, English is second language. So yes, I'm already originally from Spain, so that's why there's a funny accent. Anyways, serving is one of the most difficult things in tennis, and it's extremely frustrating when you are beginning, especially if you want to play matches and either side doesn't know how to serve. A ton of time is wasted trying to get the serve in. And in my case, even after 4 months practicing, you can see I got a ball machine. It has 120 balls. And in this day, I was basically shooting or serving balls one almost every 3 to 4 seconds. So just going like a maniac trying to get the muscle memory going in. And the reason why I recorded them is because I know that in order to improve, it's not just a matter of repeating something many times. You have to repeat it and then look at yourself and then improve based on what you see. The problem is that so many things happen when you're serving, and it's really hard to be conscious of all of them. So now I can put myself side to side with a professional, number one for many years, Djokovic. Obviously, I'm never going to get to that level, but what I can do is improve the technique and with hopes of increasing the consistency and the speed of my serves. Now, in this case, I grabbed out of the 120 serves, one of the serves that went in, which was unusual, and it actually went in with quite a bit of power. It's hard to tell here because this is all in slow motion, but if we fast forward, you can see that the ball actually went in, and there you go, it just went in. Perfectus. Let me just repeat this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare and take some notes, and hopefully by watching this I can apply the lessons and improve my tennis serve and do another recording, and we can together see if there's any kind of improvement. So right from the get-go, we can see that the stance is very similar. Both feet are kind of pointing towards the side. And the main difference here is the racket. The racket, in his case, is pointing towards the net. I don't know if this is very important. The way he's holding the ball, I'm holding it in the neck of the racket, and he likes to hold it at the top of the racket. Now, this is personal preferences. I've seen other professionals like Federer. So here we can see Federer, another comparison that I did. And in his case, the ball is also at the neck of the racket, not inside, and he's pointing down, not towards the net. So that's how he starts. Now, I don't know if this is the traditional way he starts. He was just practicing here. You can see he's stepping on the line. This would be a fault on the baseline. So he was just serving as a warm-up for a game. So everybody has a different style, right? Now, I'm going to focus on the fundamentals that I think I am doing wrong. So from here, I think you could still have an amazing serve, even if you're starting in this position. I'm not looking at the target because I was just focusing on hitting many balls really quickly. He is kind of looking at the target or somewhat towards the target because the ball actually went to the middle, not to the side. But I don't think that is very important. Now let's keep going. You can see he's leaning back before the toss, and I'm actually leaning forward. Let's see what Federer does. His stance is very relaxed. I don't think he usually serves like this. He's not leaning back at all. Well, yeah, I guess he's now because the weight is in the back of his foot. So interesting, when the serve happens, the weight is on the back of the foot. In my case, let me see what happens here. I haven't tossed yet. I'm starting the toss. And my weight's still in the forward foot, so I would think that is wrong. And the toss, okay, so now I'm starting to put the weight on my back foot. He's actually lifting his left foot while he tosses. And Federer is doing the same thing. All the weight is on the back foot, and his left foot is actually completely off the ground. My left foot is still on the ground. But I am shifting the weight, I guess, somewhat to the back of the foot. And Djokovic's racket is at the point of release is completely looking down. He has a very relaxed posture. I noticed that I'm very rigid, and I think this is very typical for beginners, where you grab the racket very hard, and you think that the more rigid and the harder you ride the racket, the more power you're gonna get, and it's counterintuitive, but the opposite is true, where you need to be very relaxed in order to get a lot of speed. Okay. Now the toss here is hard to appreciate, but I am very rigid, and my arm is bent. I release the ball a little bit too low. It should be the ball should be released over the head, not at eye level. I mean, obviously, if the ball goes straight in the right direction, which it does right now, and to the right height, it doesn't really matter where you release it. But the whole idea is to be consistent. It helps to have the arm extended and to release the ball slightly higher. If we go here, we can see that Federer, when he releases the ball, he also has a fully extended arm. And in my case, look at how low I'm releasing the ball. By the way, the Federer comparison happened maybe 2 months ago. So I would expect that I've improved a little bit in the last 2 months. And I do notice now that I get a lot more power than back in 2 months ago. Other than that, things look quite similar, Federer versus me. But his arm is way more extended than mine. And he's released the ball at... he released it about eye level. I mean, almost pretty much the same level. No, sorry. You can clearly see here that I'm releasing the ball under my eye level. So I improved a little bit in the sense that now I release the ball slightly higher, but it all looks awkward really. Now I am lifting the racket, and Djokovic's racket is still down. In this case, Federer's racket is still down. I don't think that's very important. I think the main difference is going to happen now. My stance is already changed. Not a big deal. As we can see, Federer can get lots of power with a stance where both feet are very close together. And let's see how he raises, or when he raises the racket. So we both are raising the racket about the same time, because we're going to get into the famous trophy position. But the main difference here that we can see is that my elbow is very, very high. My right elbow is very high. And for the trophy position, it seems that your right elbow should be pointing down and lower than your shoulder. And he's already arcing back. If we go here, we can see the similar situation is going to happen. I'm raising my right elbow, whereas Djokovic is actually lowering his right elbow. I'm already pointing up with the racket with a very high elbow. That has to change. His racket is still not pointing up. I don't think this is very critical, because I think it's more about the time he has to do the full swing. So if you release the ball very high, that means that you have more time to swing. Therefore, you would start your swing slightly later. In my case, I'm starting kind of the swing very early, and I think this is just because I want to be overly safe that I'm going to have enough time to get to the ball. But the main difference here is that I'm not arcing back enough, and my elbow is very high. Okay, second, let's see what we see here. Elbow super high. This is where Djokovic is already loading up like a spring. He's actually bending his knee and arcing back a lot, and I'm very, very straight. I was not trying to arc very much here, because I was trying to get a lot of balls in. But definitely something that if you want to get more power, if you think yourself of a spring, it's important to bend or arc back. And now this is a very typical mistake for beginners. You see how my racket face is pointing up. And if you look at professionals, when they start swinging back, the racket goes behind the head, which in my case does. And here is even worse. My racket is so high I'm pointing up, versus here where it's lower. My elbow is lower, which is slight improvement. But you can see how in the trophy position, Federer's elbow is very low, and the racket is completely on edge, pointing almost perpendicular to the ground. Mine is pointing in this angle with a open face. This is traditionally called the waiter's position, because it looks like this would be a tray and I could hold a glass or a cocktail there, and that is wrong. We can see here Djokovic, when he does that movement, his elbow is very low. He's swinging on edge down, and my racket is completely pointing up. And now the rest of the body, I mean, in terms of where is it pointing, more or less it's pointing to the same position. My chest is pointing to the side. And my leg, my right leg is now where all the weight is, and the left foot is lifting. We can see here, if we go forward a little bit, somewhat similar is happening with the feet here. He is jumping. Obviously, professional people put a lot more power and they jump. I don't jump. But in terms of the foot positions, you can see it's almost identical. The right foot is also lifted, and all the weight is on the left foot. But the main difference is how I'm unloading in this case. You can see how the racket is pointing down. His arm is really bent back. He's really arched back, so he's completely looking up. The left arm, which is acting as a counterbalance, mine is very high in this case. Here we can see that, yeah, obviously I'm not arched back enough. The racket is pointing up. That's wrong. And now this is a huge difference, especially between me and Djokovic. It's how much he's very known to be very flexible. But if you look at this position right here, it's a very awkward looking position. It almost looks like he's twisting back like a pretzel, like almost breaking his arm. And it's a very, very awkward position. But what he's doing is he's loading his arm a lot more. My elbow is so much higher, and my racket face is almost at my head level, and he's almost touching his butt with the racket. And so he's going to get all this much path of swinging to accelerate from here to point of contact, where I'm only accelerating from here to there. So there's a lot less distance for me to create full acceleration, right? So that's why obviously I wouldn't get as much power as somebody like Djokovic. And then here's where we start swinging. This is also a very difficult thing for beginners, is to understand pronation. Pronation means that it's how you twist your wrist just before contact, which is clockwise in the case of a right-handed person, which is going to become very obvious after hitting the ball. So I'm already, let me see when I start pronating. So I start pronating around here, and you can see how Djokovic still pointing at the ball with the edge. It almost looks like he's going to chop the ball with the edge of his racket. And we go forward here with Federer. Okay, well, this is another thing that is important to this extent. Here, Federer is, so there's three types of serves. There's the flat serve, which is the most powerful serve, where there's very little spin on the ball. You just want to get an ace, hit as fast as you can. And then there's two other serves that impart some kind of a spin on the ball, which is the side spin one, or isn't that the spin one, the side serve, and the kick serve. So the kick serve, they just have spin, which means you have to kind of brush the ball from left to right in order to create a spin, which is somewhat what's happening here, right? That's why the racket is kind of facing at 45 degrees angle to the left at the point of contact, and mine is completely straight, even facing or angle away from my body, because I was trying to hit a flat serve. The only reason why is because the only serve that I can barely hit, and the other ones are more difficult to master, and but they're very important to master in order to have a solid second serve, because the spin serves or the kick serve, they tend to go higher over the net and then deep down over the net, and then it gives you a higher margin of error. They're slower, but they're easy to put in. So I think he's doing here I would say a kick serve. So that's why the racket looks different, but his arm is fully extended over his head. Mine is to the side. He is jumping. In the case of Djokovic, it looks like he's going to hit a flat serve. So he just pronates a millisecond just before contact. So at the point of contact, let me just go back. Our arms look similar, although I'm hitting quite in front of me. He's hitting more over his head. And now there's a huge difference here in the arm. The left arm is acting as a counter balance, and also as what is known as a reactive brakes, because what you're trying to attempt is tuck the left arm under your body. Here you can see how you can see his hand There is a tennis instructor that says, you should be waving with your left hand. It should be visible behind your back when you are at the point of contact. And you can see how you cannot see my left hand, which means I haven't really done that motion properly, and that's why I'm not going to get as much speed, right? So in a sense, you're using it as a counterbalance. It helps you accelerate, but then you break that movement, and that momentum gets transferred to the right arm, and then you get that higher speed whipping motion during pronation at the point of contact, which I'm not getting because I didn't do that properly. Okay, so we keep going forward. Now this is a huge difference, but not slight. I mean, I'm swinging more forward than sideways, but you can see how Djokovic is, after pronation, he's pronating so much that the racket face is pointing away, to the side. Mine is still pointing somewhat away, but mostly in front of me. You can see I swing so fast and got smoke on the ball. Like, I really smoked the ball. Now the reason why is because the courts are very dusty, because it hasn't been raining for a long time. But that's gives a nice little effect of power. And then what else? How many things I've done wrong? I keep swinging forward. I kind of stop pronating, but you can see how Djokovic keeps pronating, and now the racket is even pointing to the back fence, and mine is pointing down and really to the side and away from the body. And because I swung so forward and I didn't pronate enough, I don't get that level. And look at that. His elbow is still to the side, and the racket is almost, it looks like he's going to whip himself in the balls. But he doesn't, obviously. And he goes from that position to swinging the rackets to the left sideways, which I do too, but with a lot less pronation. And then the final position, you can see how the racket is pointing up, mine is pointing down. Now the thing is that what are the crucial things that different people are gonna swing or serve differently. I mean, you can see here also the biggest difference is that his arm already is fully pronated with the racket pointing back after the point of contact, and mine here I pronated really bad, and the arm is not so much to the side, and the racket face is not pointing back. So all professional tennis players will have this kind of position right at the point of contact. And so we can see the left arm is also tucked in, and you can see it from the back, and you cannot see my left arm anywhere. In fact, I think my left arm is over my shoulder. So in a sense, I did use it as a reactive break, but it's way higher. The left arm should be below my right armpit, and that's not what's happening here. You can see when I'm finishing my swing, my racket is already visible from the left of my body, and in the case of Federer, is still to the right, which means a lot of all the motion, the pronation, and so going to the ball, contact, and follow through after pronation, the arm stays to the right of the body continuously. And in my case, it has swung already to the left of the body. This is a huge difference you can see here. And racket on the right, racket on the left, right? And here maybe we can see the same thing. Well, at this moment, again, this is a few months after the first video from Federer, so there should be some improvement. But if we go back, you can see how the arm is still on the right, and mine is already swinging towards the left. But this time it's already pretty much on the same location. It's a slightly better swing, and I also know that I got a lot more power on this serve than in this serve. Both serves went in, but this was a quite weak serve. I don't pronate properly, and I don't get enough of the whipping action. But you can see how professionals have a very, very aggressive pronation. And I would say, again, the most difficult things that I found so far is being in this position when I'm putting the racket behind my head, getting ready for that my elbow is very high. So the position of the racket, the elbow is too high. We already covered the toss, but like I say, as long as the ball goes in the right position, it's okay. And then look at how much he's bending the arm and how low the racket is. Then he's attacking the ball on edge, and I'm already pronating. That means that I'm already twisting too early my wrist to get ready for contact. And then I'm swinging more forward than to the side. And this is very counterintuitive. You think I should be swinging towards the target, but the reality is that you don't swing towards the target. You swing almost to the side. As you can see, this is where the racket is pointing completely to the side. Now, of course, I'm pointing forward because that's what I intuitively think I need to do, but that's wrong. That's wrong. Anyway, so this is a recap of how not to surf, and hopefully by watching this video and taking some notes, the next time I upload a video, things are going to look a lot better and resemble more of what a professional does. If you want to see more of these videos, I've been recording a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel with me practicing backhands, forehands with the machine, and maybe you'll see some improvement. You can take also some notes and apply them to your own tennis. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.